Millionaire discovers. Wife abusing maid's daughter, his unexpected act of kindness is incredible. James Thompson, affluent architect of Maplewood, had always been the embodiment of the American dream. At 42, he commanded respect, his company thriving, and his marriage to Laura, an elegant beauty adored by the community, once felt unwavering. He believed in hard work, ambition, and family, an ideal life until today. As he prepared for a charity event in their immaculate backyard, laughter in the distance turned cold as he overheard Laura's voice, sharp, unyielding, slicing through the air. "Get out of my way, Rosa. Your daughter will never amount to anything." His heart sank. It was Rosa, the maid, and her daughter Mia, an extraordinary artist with a future dimmed by the weight of Laura's disdain. James felt an unfamiliar knot tighten in his chest. Could it be true? The ever-pleasant smile that Laura donned before the world now masked something darker. Embers of anger kindled within him, and the stark difference between their lives became unbearable. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt more like a gilded cage trapping silence and manipulation. He hesitated, a terrible dilemma spinning through his mind. Should he defend the voiceless daughter of his maid, or maintain loyalty to his formidable wife, whose approval he had so desperately sought? And yet, the tears shimmering in Mia's eyes mirrored his own childhood struggles as an artist. He recalled watching his father's dreams, sacrificed for stability, crushed beneath the relentless grind of life. Does he allow history to repeat itself, or does he choose to intervene? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, James devised a secret plan, visits to art galleries, each innocent facade hiding a purpose. Mia became a beacon of shared dreams, her laughter filling voids within him he hadn't realized existed. With each brushstroke and personal story, he felt his own creative spirit begin to revive, shaking loose shackles of his past, even while Laura tightened her grip behind him. Yet the thrill of these clandestine excursions brought not just joy, but a foreboding weight of dread. Laura's gaze was like a hawk, sharp and unrelenting, urging silence from his lips. Once she discovered the truth, the eruption would be devastating. Would the woman who had charmed so many with her perfection crumple under the revelation? Or would she unleash a tempest that would tear their already fragile bond apart? Each encounter with Mia became a dual-edged sword, a risky balance teetering through his life, fueled by love, yet shackled by the haunting fear of consequence. And then it happened. Laura's cunning eyes caught a glimpse of a sketch Mia had left behind, the unmistakable signature curling delicately on the edge. "James," she began, her voice cold and steely, "what is this? I thought we were loyal to our own?" The air grew thick, electric with unspoken accusations, as he felt his heart race in response. The room's opulence felt oppressive, a reminder of the life he wanted to protect, alongside the life he needed to change. In that moment, as tension swelled, an impossible choice loomed. Would he confront reality and defend the defenseless, or allow everything he built, his home, his marriage, to disintegrate before his eyes? James's heart pounded against his ribcage, the room closing in around him as he met Laura's icy gaze. The silence stretched uncomfortably, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension. Laura's question hung in the air, heavy with accusations and the unspoken expectation of his allegiance. He felt the past and future collide, the specter of his childhood dreams wrestling with the chains of his present reality. "Laura," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, but the words caught in his throat. Had this always been her? Had he ignored the signs, her cruelty to Rosa, her dismissive comments about those she deemed beneath them? A flicker of shame sparked within him for turning a blind eye, for allowing his ambition to overshadow his moral compass. Do you have a problem with our values? You know how things are meant to be. Her brows furrowed, her expression a mix of disdain and disbelief. She hadn't expected resistance, not from him. The realization was both liberating and terrifying. "Yes, I do," he said, surprising himself with the boldness in his tone. His resolve began forming, strengthening with every thought of Mia and what her future could hold if only given a chance. He could not stand idly by while Laura crushed hope beneath her heels, just as he had seen his father's dreams discarded. "Are you actually siding with them?" Her voice dripped with sarcasm, throwing their years together into stark contrast. "I assumed you understood what loyalty means. Was loyalty to her worth the price of silence? Was silent complicity worth the cost of a bright future for Mia? Each question spurred another realization. His investments in art were not mere support. They were part of something larger, an awakening that reinvigorated his soul. Creativity surged through him, a pulse he had long thought dead in the grind of his architectural commitments. "I don't think focusing on the needs of the less fortunate is disloyalty," he replied, voice steadying. "You should try it sometime." Her incredulous laughter ricocheted off the walls, uncomfortably met by the echo of their distant and increasingly irreconcilable lives. "What do you propose, James? That I embrace your little art project? That I play nice with people who can't elevate us socially? You're a fool to think that could ever work." The shards of his resolve sparkled angrily in that moment, challenging her perception of their life. "What if," he said slowly, deliberately, "I choose to support Mia? She has talent, something you've refused to see." Laura crossed her arms, an impenetrable wall against the unfolding shift. The danger of his decision felt palpable, yet he could no longer worry about her reaction. He was discovering a part of himself that had long been stifled. "The art community is vibrant and full of ideas, something you might appreciate if you stepped outside your bubble," he continued, feeling power surging within him as he let the words flow freely. The clash of their ideologies sparked a fire, one that, perhaps for the first time, illuminated the chasm between who he had become and who he wanted to be. The tension morphed into something almost exhilarating, and yet underneath it lay a thick blanket of fear. What if Laura retaliated? What if this confrontation brought chaos into their home? "Fine, pursue your folly," she spat, her face a mask of rage. "But don't think I'll sit back and watch my husband throw away our life for someone like her." With that, she stormed out, leaving James standing amidst the echoes of their bickering, his own heart both racing and strangely content. He inhaled deeply, a sense of relief mingling with uncertainty sweeping over him. He was making choices now, taking brave steps toward the life he desired to embrace. Over the coming days, James's visits with Mia unfolded into shared projects, discussions about art, determination, and their respective future pursuits. But as their bond deepened, he regularly sensed Laura looming like a storm cloud overhead, ready to unleash her wrath when she deployed her next move. The time had come to make a fateful decision that would irreversibly impact their lives. Would he stand firm against the tempest Laura was poised to deliver, or retreat back into the shadows of familial loyalty? As he prepared for the inevitable confrontation that awaited him, James realized, this time, he could no longer be just an observer in his own life. Each day after the confrontation with Laura felt like treading over a freshly laid minefield. The air in their home grew thick with unspoken resentment, yet a strange sense of clarity surged through James as he engaged in conversations with Mia. Her passion for art and her dreams brimmed with carefree energy, contrasting sharply with the tension that ruled his household. In every meeting, he found himself questioning what life could be if he embraced this new path fully. Settling into his role as a mentor to Mia was liberating, allowing him to finally experience an emotional connection he had overlooked for years. He found joy in brainstorming ideas for her latest project, their laughter filling the space where Laura's disparagement once resided. As the days passed, the draw to invest in Mia's vision deepened. She inspired him to rediscover his own creativity, reminding him of the vibrant dreams that had first compelled him to architecture. Yet with every shared moment came the fleeting shadow of Laura, her words echoing in his mind like a haunting melody refusing to fade. He'd witnessed her disillusionment seep into their lives, corroding any affection they had nurtured over the years. Each time he caught himself feeling guilty for not conforming to her expectations, he wrestled with the weight of his burgeoning identity, a man who dared to oppose the status quo. On a particularly rainy afternoon, James found himself alone in his office, staring at a stark white canvas perched on a nearby easel. He felt the stillness of the room, a stark contrast to the storm raging outside. With each drop of rain against the window, doubts cascaded through his mind. Was he brave enough to challenge the norm, even if it meant facing Laura's wrath and potentially endangering his marriage? The front door creaked open, announcing Laura's return, and he froze. She walked in, her heels clicking against the floor with purpose, erasing any remnants of their earlier argument. For a fleeting moment, their eyes met, and he saw not his wife, but a formidable force demanding order and obedience. Yet, something was different. Rather than cower under her disdain, he felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him, a newfound determination. Unconsciously, he straightened his shoulders, standing taller against the turmoil. "I want to support Mia," he declared, words pouring out with unexpected resolve. "She deserves a chance." Laura's expression morphed into one of manic disbelief before retreating into indifference. "And you're prepared to sacrifice our future for her?" "Not for her alone," James countered, steadying his breath. "For myself, too. I can't ignore what feels right anymore." An icy silence filled the room. The air was charged with an accusatory tension that came so naturally to their interactions, yet James stood firm, conscious of the man he wanted to evolve into. He envisioned the future he could build without the shackles of past expectations binding his soul. Laura crossed her arms tightly, brows knitted together. "You realize, don't you, that this will change everything? I won't let you throw everything we built away." "Perhaps this is about creating something new," James replied, his voice laced with startling confidence. "A life that values kindness and creativity over superficial gains." He felt empowered by his admission, tasting the weight of words unspoken for far too long. The battle had become not merely about loyalty to Laura, but a staunch defense of his values and those he believed in. As Laura's frustration simmered and boiling protests formed on her lips, James realized he was teetering on the brink of change. Could standing by Mia signify a rebirth of the self he had buried deep inside? His heart raced as the stakes escalated. "Fine," Laura said finally, "but if you choose this path, don't expect not to face the consequences. I will not sit back and let you unravel everything." As she stormed out, the resolve he felt shimmered in the air, charged with the weight of possibility. The confrontation had opened a door he never realized he stood in front of, and now he was faced with the terrifying reality. Committing to a choice was only the beginning. James knew the next steps would require more than just courage. They would demand precise planning and unwavering determination if he hoped to navigate the churning waters ahead. As he turned back to the empty canvas, a vision sparked in his mind, one that blended Mia's artistic potential with his own reconceived ambitions. The foundation was laid, yet the blueprint remained untested. What awaited him beyond this frame? Would he have the audacity to put his newfound clarity into action? The answers clamored for attention, a stirring reminder that true growth demanded the willingness to face the impending consequences. With the door to his old life firmly closed behind him, James ventured further into the realm of possibilities. The echo of his confrontation with Laura still reverberated in his mind, but it was no longer a haunting spectre. It had transformed into a clarion call. Each passing day became a new opportunity for introspection and action. Mia's art project burgeoned into a central focus, a vibrant palette elucidating the path ahead. Motivated by fresh ideas and the thrill of creativity, they spent hours working together. She revealed her vision, rich with bold colors and evocative designs, and James found himself swept up in the passion that had long eluded him. Gone were the days of numb acceptance. Now he dreamt of an architecture that harmonized art and structure. One afternoon, while standing on the precipice of a design sketch, a pivotal question struck him. What is my true legacy? This was no longer merely about building aesthetically pleasing structures. It was about connecting, inspiring, and enriching the lives touched by his work. Each line he drew became a thread woven into a tapestry of renewed identity. Time and again, the thought of confronting Laura's glare returned, but it was tempered by his achievements with Mia. As the project morphed from concept to reality, he began to notice changes within himself. Confidence chipped away at the residual fears that had anchored him. But lurking beneath the surface were remnants of doubt. Was he ready to fully embrace this new chapter? During their brainstorming sessions, Mia often articulated her fears about initial setbacks. "What if it's not good enough?" she would ask, her brow furrowing. In those moments, James felt equipped to bolster her resilience, sharing tales of his own early struggles as an architect. He became both mentor and guardian, recognizing that the strength he imparted could fortify himself as well. One night he stayed awake, sketching plans for a community space that could serve not just as a building, but as a hub for inspiration and creativity. Exactly the kind of environment that could nurture young talents like Mia. The vision felt electrifying. He could almost sense the laughter and innovation swirling within those walls. The next morning, a subtle change brewed at home. Laura's presence was heavy yet strangely absent, allowing room for James to bask in his own evolution. As he stood in front of the mirror, he felt the urge to reclaim his voice ring through him. The man looking back had the potential to carve out a future independent of her expectations. It was time to confront the inevitable. Discussing this vision would be impossible without including her in the conversation. When Laura strode into the kitchen, her demeanor cool, James sensed the tension woven into her usual routine. "I'm initiating a project with Mia," he started cautiously, gauging her reaction. Her eyes widened, not with interest but with skepticism. "That girl? You're really putting your career on the line for her whims?" "Not whims, Laura, vision. I want to create something beautiful that impacts our community." With every word, he fought to maintain his composure against her adversarial energy. "And how do you justify this with your obligations here?" she shot back, arms crossed as she leaned against the counter. The air thickened with palpable friction as he took a moment to breathe deeply, focusing on the resolve that had brought him this far. "I'm learning to prioritize what's important to me, who I want to be. This isn't just about the project. It's about redefining myself." Laura's silence spoke volumes. He could almost see the gears turning in her mind as she considered this new form of James standing before her. "What about your career, our life?" she finally said, her voice a mix of incredulity and anger. "There's more to life than the image we've crafted," he replied, feeling the weight of each word. Her retort echoed in the air. "Don't be foolish, James." Yet, Beneath the surface of their conflict, James felt authorized to stake his claim, to build something of substance beyond the facade they had constructed together. He had ignited a spark of turmoil, revealing a fracture in their established order through every interaction layered with his new aspirations. Each encounter with Laura would be a battle, but one he felt more prepared to wage. As the distance between their worlds widened, James began to question what lay ahead. Would he have the strength to stand firm, navigating uncharted waters of conflict and self-discovery? The urge to forge ahead was relentless, and the thought of failing haunted him. What if he lost both his marriage and his dreams? Uncertainty loomed, yet excitement thrummed beneath it. He needed to dive deeper into this journey, one that promised liberation amid the chaos. What would the unfolding narrative reveal? Would James embrace the tumult of his waking reality and the flicker of creativity, or would he drift back into the shadows of compliance? As he strategized his next steps, the questions hung suspended in the air, an unresolved puzzle awaiting the final piece of revelation. A week passed since that pivotal conversation with Laura, and the atmosphere in their home remained heavy with unspoken words. James strove to concentrate on his work with Mia, yet the unresolved tension nagged at him, intertwining with his burgeoning creativity. Each day spent sketching and refining Mia's project was simultaneously exhilarating and anxiety-inducing. The excitement of envisioning a space that could foster innovation clashed with the weight of his reality at home. He felt as though he was walking a tightrope, balancing his new aspirations against the doubts that tugged at him from every direction. During a particularly intense session with Mia, the undeniable chemistry of their collaboration reached a fever pitch. Surrounded by swaths of fabric and paints reflecting vibrant possibilities, he released a rush of ideas, each more daring than the last. "What if we include a vertical garden?" he suggested, his determination finding expression in the details. It could purify the air and offer a sense of tranquility amidst the chaos. Mia's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. That could invite nature inside. It would be transformative. As they developed the concept further, James felt his spirit lift. For the first time in ages, he embraced a sense of purpose that propelled him beyond self-doubt. Each brushstroke and each revision of the design fueled his fire to embrace this change. Mia's unwavering belief in the project served not merely as encouragement, but as a reflection of his evolving mindset. However, with every triumphant moment in the studio, the idea of discussing his ambitions with Laura loomed larger. The looming confrontation was like an invisible storm on the horizon. He could feel its approach, and yet he was paralyzed by the fear of its arrival. The weekend unfolded with an unexpected twist. Mia's excitement led them to organize an informal presentation of their project for friends and family, an event designed to garner initial feedback. Thrumming with anticipation and doubt, James was nevertheless electrified by the prospect of sharing their vision. In a moment of boldness, he extended an invitation to Laura, fully aware that her presence could unravel everything. Instinctively, he silenced that nagging fear, allowing the excitement of the project to guide his hand instead. This project represented more than architecture. It was the foundation of his own renewal, and he craved her acknowledgement. As the day arrived, James stood before a crowd intermingled with the warmth of friends and the cool detachment of family. The atmosphere buzzed with murmurs of excitement and curiosity, tinged as always with an underlying tension radiating from the presence of Laura, who arrived late and approached with arms crossed. "Is this really necessary?" she muttered under her breath as James began the presentation, her piercing gaze never leaving him. Yet as he spoke passionately about their design, a space that blended artistic expression and functionality, James sensed a shift in the room. Friends leaned in, nodding in appreciation, their excitement bubbling like champagne ready to overflow. "Imagine children learning in a space that inspires them," he declared, propelled by the energy around him. Mia chimed in, her enthusiasm infectious, and collectively they painted a vision vivid enough to resonate with everyone present. But Laura's icy demeanor started to chip away. As the audience engaged with questions and ideas, he glimpsed the tiniest flicker of intrigue in her eyes. Could she be swayed, even just a bit? When the crowd dispersed, James felt a swell of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could bridge the widening gulf between them. He stepped toward her, muscles taut with tentative resolve. "What do you think?" he asked, bracing himself. The sharpness in her expression softened, revealing surprise instead of skepticism. "It's impressive," she said slowly, as if tasting the words. Even as her admission kindled a glimmer of hope within him, James could not help but notice her lingering hesitance. The underlying challenge remained unaddressed. He had to confront the shifting dynamics of their relationship. Suddenly, a new determination settled within him. The fight for their future was no longer just about architecture or dreams. It was about redefining the very foundation of their lives together. As he faced Laura, the question lingered. Would she choose to redefine their lives in tandem with his growing vision, or would she retreat into past expectations? The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation and anxiety, demanding clarity that neither had been willing to face until now. This was the precipice. Their next steps would determine everything. Would they strive for the same vision, or would this be yet another point of fracture? The culmination of their choices lay just ahead, and both paths beckoned with distinct futures waiting to unfold. A sudden silence enveloped them, the air pulsing with unresolved tension as Laura looked at James, her expression a complex mixture of surprise and contemplation. James's heart raced at the realization that now was his chance to navigate the invisible chasm that had widened between them. He needed to delve deeper, to articulate not only the project, but the implications it held for their life together. As he stood there, his mind raced. How could he convey the sense of liberation he felt? "Laura," he started, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "This project, it's not just about creating a space. It's about creating a future. A future I want to share with you." He searched her eyes, hoping to find an opening, but her gaze remained inscrutable. Their shared history, filled with dreams and letdowns, wrapped around their feet like a heavy anchor. "What future?" she answered sharply, her defensiveness flaring again. "One where you're splitting your time between what you want and what the world needs from you?" Movement in the room around them faded into the background as he pressed on, focusing entirely on her, trying to pull her into the vision he had built with Mia. "It's about combining our aspirations. I want us to build something meaningful together, redefine what we make of this life," he said, gesturing toward the space they imagined. Her crossed arms betrayed her struggle to reconcile the connection between his fervor and her own doubts. "And why should I believe you? You've been lost for so long. I can't navigate this world without clarity." His head swirled with a mixture of frustration and empathy. She was right. Her voice echoed the very doubts that had plagued him since he embarked on this journey. Perhaps, in claiming his own voice, he had sidelined her. "You're not lost," he countered gently. "You're just waiting for something to light that spark within you again. I want us to find that escape together." Despite his determination, a tremor ran through him. Could she understand the depth of his sincerity? Their silence stretched on as a wave of tension passed between them, a palpable acknowledgement of both the past and the possibility of a shared future. He realized that he was not just fighting for his dreams, but hers as well. As the air thickened, he raised the stakes further. "Take this leap with me, Laura. Come and work with us on the design. Let's create a space that represents us, who we were, who we are, who we could be." Her brow furrowed as she considered his words. What if I fail? What if this is just another one of your whims that I get tangled in? The vulnerability in her voice cut deep, and he felt the responsibility that lay ahead. Failure is part of the process. This isn't just about success. It's about getting back in the ring. In that moment, he saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. He was presenting her not just a project, but a path forward, shimmering with uncertainty, yet bursting with potential. Yet just as things began to shift, the door swung open, interrupting their exchange. Mia entered, her enthusiasm radiant as she remarked on the feedback they had received. "You were incredible, James. Everyone is excited about the vertical garden. It's going to be a cornerstone of the project." Laura's expression hardened upon seeing the excitement, her walls swiftly re-establishing themselves. "Is this really how you want to spend your time? With her?" James felt the tides shift again, the momentary connection slipping through his fingers. The fear and expectation, silent and crushing, swelled again. "It's not just her," he stated firmly, drawing a line he was unwilling to cross. "It's about vision and fulfillment, something we've both been lacking. We can't keep dancing around it." Laura stared at him, the storm brewing behind her eyes. "But what you don't know about me," she started, and he held his breath. The weight of her words hung ominously in the air. Was she returning fire, or preparing to show a side of herself he had yet to see? As uncertainty pierced the fragile atmosphere once more, he braced himself for the revelation that could redefine everything. Would this be the moment they finally confronted their deepest fears, or would it serve only to deepen the rift? The answer lay in the charged silence, waiting to be unleashed. James stood there, tension coiling around him like a suffocating shroud. Laura's final words echoed in his mind, a haunting prelude to a potential revelation that could either bridge the growing divide or shatter their tenuous connection further. He sensed the storm brewing within her, conflicts pulsing just beneath the surface, begging for release. "Laura," he urged softly, the earnestness in his voice unwavering, "whatever you have to say, just know I'm here to listen. No judgments, just raw honesty." He could feel the heat radiating from her, a mixture of vulnerability and defiance. It made him acutely aware of his own fears, fears of rejection, of failing to initiate the discussion that could change everything. "Raw honesty," she scoffed, fingers tapping nervously against her arms. "Do you really think we can just unearth old wounds and fix everything with a conversation?" A pang of frustration bubbled within him. Too often had they glanced at the fractures in their relationship without ever attempting to fill them. "Yes," he asserted, a flicker of determination igniting in his soul. "It needs to start somewhere, Laura. I'm tired of skirting around real issues. We've been afraid for so long. If we don't speak our truths now, when will we?" The passion in his words translated to a strength he didn't quite feel, but he willed it into existence. Laura's posture softened for a fleeting moment, an invitation blooming across her features. "You really think this will lead somewhere?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know it," James replied. "We've grown stagnant, both of us. I've been chasing a future that feels more like an escape than a path forward. I need you in that vision, your voice, your ideas. Together, we can create something vibrant and whole." She hesitated, the waves of uncertainty crashing down upon her resolve. "What if diving in means unveiling parts of myself I've buried? Then let's unveil them together," he offered, a quiet intensity threading through his tone. "I want to know. Every story, each fear, your past is just as important as the one I've crafted. If we're to build this future, we can't leave pieces behind." As the words settled in the room, he could see her shying away, contemplating the road ahead, torn between the comfort of silence and the unpredictable exploration of their emotional landscape. James felt the weight of the past pressing down on him, haunting the grey corners of their shared memories. The hopelessness that had once overwhelmed him was slowly lifting, replaced with a burgeoning sense of purpose. Each moment spent avoiding these conversations had stifled their growth, but bravely approaching them now felt like breaking free from a cage he had long inhabited. Taking a breath, he rallied his thoughts. Just imagine, Laura, we've both been trying to tread water in two separate worlds when we can build one together. What have we got to lose? Tension ricocheted in the space between them, intensifying the atmosphere. Just as he thought he saw the flicker of acceptance cross her face, she shook her head, dismissing the notion before it could take hold. "Fear is paralyzing," she murmured, more to herself than him. "What if exposing our vulnerabilities reveals more than I'm prepared to handle?" "Then we'll handle it together," he said, a gentle assurance weaving through his words. "You don't have to be brave alone. Let's share the burden. I believe that's the only way we can truly grow." A long, tense pause followed, thick with unspoken words and revelations. Laura's fierce eyes held a twinge of reluctant admiration mixed with anxiety. Would she trust him enough to take that step? She began, but the moment teetered on the edge of collapse as another voice cut through the tension. Mia, oblivious to the emotional upheaval, began discussing the next steps of the project, her enthusiasm spilling over the borders of their fragile moment. James felt frustration washing over him again. He wanted to scream for Mia to leave, to grant him this vital moment with Laura, but instead he clenched his jaw silently. With his heart pounding, he realized that their conversation was far from over. He would have to find another moment to reach her, to really reach her, and he could see that need flickering in her eyes too. But now a different urgency gripped him, a question swirling in his mind. What if, in avoiding the turmoil of their emotions, they were both missing out on the real breakthrough? The navigation was just beginning, and it threatened to unravel as quickly as it had started. As Mia rattled off the next agenda item, James couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was at stake. "Laura," he whispered urgently, "please don't walk away again. There's something deeper here that we can't ignore. We're on the brink. It's time to dive in." His heart tightened as he fully understood the depth of their struggle. Silence hung once more, but this time it felt more potent. Both terrified and hopeful, he anticipated what she might finally reveal. The unveiling of truths loomed ahead. It was only a matter of time before he found out if they would become stronger for it or remain shackled by their own fears. James felt the weight of atmosphere pressing against him. As he replayed the moments from earlier, the tension tinged with what felt like both urgency and trepidation. Working every day on his project without truly confronting the shared struggles with Laura felt futile. He had learned too much about avoidance. It promised safety but only delivered stagnation. Mia's discussion about the project had become a mechanical backdrop, an urgent, soundless static that pulled him into harsh focus. Distracted by the weight of unacknowledged matters, he began to withdraw, refocusing his thoughts on what mattered most. Laura. His mind raced as he considered the logistical aspects of their work together and overlooked the emotional framework that actually undergirded their collaboration. What if they allocated emotional space in the structure of their professional environment? Could vulnerability enhance productivity? Turning back towards Laura, he noticed her expression had transformed under the chittering of Mia's voice. Determination was etched into her features, but she was still wrestling with uncertainty, the kind that clamped down on her heart like a vice. He longed to dismantle that vice, if only to see her breathe freely again. "Okay, we've skated around each other for too long," he decided, abruptly interrupting Mia's flow of ideas. "We need to revisit our vision. The project isn't just about metrics. It's about what we stand for. Laura, can we carve out some space to talk about what's really going on?" His voice resonated with an intensity that both surprised him and commanded attention. "James, we're in the middle of a meeting," Mia interjected, her eyebrows knitting together in disapproval. He shot her a glance, one brimming with an urgency that left no room for argument. With a deep breath he returned his gaze to Laura, resolutely willing her to see that the moment held more potential than continuing the status quo. "It's not just about the work," he insisted, drawing their work dynamic into sharper focus. Laura's eyes darted between him and Mia, caught in a crossfire of expectations, but finally the hesitation in her posture seemed to quiver. "All right," she said, her tone imbued with a surrender that was neither defeat nor triumph. "Let's talk." The room vibrated with possibility, the air around them thickening with the recognition that they were standing at the precipice of transformation. As Mia's words faded into a muddled background noise, James felt a sense of new energy course through him. It wasn't just about the project anymore. It was about mutual growth and understanding. As they stepped outside for a break, the open air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and earth, a stark contrast to the tension they'd just momentarily escaped. "What do we even talk about?" Laura asked hesitantly, the walls she'd spent years erecting becoming suddenly palpable in her body language. "Let's start with what scares us," he said, pacing slightly, feeling the urgency build within him. "What if vulnerability pulls us together rather than tears us apart? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's what we need. I need it." Laura met his earnest gaze with surprise. She rarely saw that level of self-reflection in him, despite knowing it lurked beneath the surface. The spark of understanding lit within them, almost igniting action. She was clearly processing, yet simultaneously caught in the grip of fear. "All right then, if we're to do this, then what scares you the most?" she asked, her vulnerability cloaked in a challenge. In that moment, he recognized a shared burden. They both fought inner demons that cast shadows on their relationship. "The thought of losing you," he admitted, his voice steady. "This project, us, what if it all slips away because we didn't open our eyes to what truly matters?" The honesty hung in the air, heavy and transformative. Laura regarded him closely, seeing the truth etched in his features. "What about you, Laura? What holds you back? What is your deepest fear?" He realized, even if his question felt intrusive, it was also a doorway waiting to be pried open. The unknowing encircled them, electric and alive, as both of them prepared to uncloak fears and heal old wounds as they stepped into the unknown. Caught in a cycle of doubt and courage, she seemed poised on the brink of revelation. He watched, heart thrumming, anticipating what she was about to share. The consequences of taking this leap into honesty could reshape everything. But just as she began to speak, a loud crack of thunder erupted from above. The sky darkened, quickly enveloping them in unexpected shadows, a twist of fate that could either stall their momentum or galvanize it. "James!" she began, eyes wide, as droplets of rain descended around them. "Let's get to shelter," he urged her, feeling the urgency lift again amidst the unfolding chaos. "And continue this conversation when we can really focus." As they rushed to find cover, an underlying tension coiled tighter. Both were keenly aware now that vulnerability had become a foundation for their forthcoming truths. In the back of his mind, he felt a whisper of how deeply their personal journeys were interwoven, setting the stage for a revelation that could ultimately alter the course of their lives entirely. What might emerge from this storm, he wondered, as they sought refuge. As they ducked into the nearby cafe, the atmosphere inside felt like a cocoon, warm and inviting, in strong contrast to the tumultuous world outside. The rain pattered against the windows, creating a soothing white noise that both hindered and heightened the urgency of their conversation. James glanced around, momentarily distracted by the vibrant artwork lining the walls, each piece forming a narrative much like their own slowly unfolding story. Once seated, they exchanged fleeting glances filled with apprehension and determination. The cafe buzzed with the hum of conversations, yet in their corner, an intimate silence settled between them, forming a shared shield against the noise of the world. "Okay," Laura said, running a hand through her hair, pushing back the tension that clung like wet fabric. "You opened the door. Let's see what's behind it." James was struck by her readiness and glimpsed the flicker of bravery beneath her apprehensions. "What scares me most? It's feeling inadequate, not just in this project, but in life. I worry I'll never actually make a difference." His admission hung in the air, tinged with authenticity that transcended the usual small talk. Laura nodded slowly, her brows knitting in thought. "For me, it's the fear of being judged, the pressure to always present the best version of myself. I worry what happens if I fail to deliver." The weight of their truths anchored them deeper into their seats, transforming hesitation into understanding. Every shared fear exorcised a bit of their long-standing patterns. James sought to grasp the power of vulnerability, how bare truths cultivated strength rather than weakness. "Why do we let these fears dictate our roles?" he pondered aloud, almost rhetorically. "If we open up to each other, wouldn't it change everything?" Laura's gaze intensified as the rain continued to hammer against the windows. "But will we still be effective if we're distracted by our fears? What if being open demolishes our professionalism? Or," he interjected, "what if it lays a foundation for an even stronger partnership? Think of the clarity and innovation that authenticity could inspire." As she leaned back, this fresh perspective ignited a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. The potential of exploring their partnership through a lens of honesty was both thrilling and terrifying. She took a deep breath, an almost palpable shift occurring within her. "Okay then," Laura said, her voice steadied with resolve. "Perhaps we can create boundaries, share our fears, but also state our commitments, what we're willing to do, despite them." The notion of transformations through parameters struck a chord with him. "I like that. It protects our goals, but honors who we are behind them." They spent the next hour crafting what felt like a tentative lifeline. Their notes turned into a cocoon of promises, a bulwark against the vulnerabilities that had once threatened to fracture their connection. Subtle glances became affirmations of trust and respect, shifting from apprehension to collaboration. With the rain subsiding, James felt a new whirlwind of excitement brew within him. Tension shifted. Now, it was not just about salvaging their project, but about a meaningful alliance built on mutual honesty. Realizing how far they had come, even in this small interlude, James couldn't help but think it was just the beginning. The notion of sharing burdens crafted something undeniably powerful between them. Yet he also perceived an openness in Laura that felt uncharted and pulsed with potential. As they gathered their things to leave, Laura hesitated. "So what is the next step for us? How do we ensure this sincerity doesn't just become another fleeting moment?" James smiled, feeling grounded yet inspired. "Let's set aside time regularly for these conversations. We need to commit to the process and hold each other accountable." "Agreed," she replied, a sense of relief woven into her tone. "But I sense we'll also need to confront some external challenges." He nodded, clarity rising in him. "The team dynamics, Mia. We can't let others dictate our authenticity now that we've tasted it." A cloud of reality hovered above them, a reminder that navigating their newly formed commitment would not be seamless. And what happens if Mia doesn't understand? Or worse, what if she tries to undermine this transformation? The impending confrontation loomed, a potential storm brewing just beyond the cafe's threshold. James felt adrenaline pump through him. The moment had come to face not only their own fears, but the challenges that awaited them at work. As he threw open the door to the outside world, a sprinkle of sunlight emerged, shrouded in the receding clouds. "Let's brace ourselves. We'll face it together." And with that, he stepped out into the light, aware that the real test was about to unfold, interpreting his resolve as a beacon for what lay ahead. What awaited them in their professional realm, he wondered, as the tide of change washed over him. Days turned into weeks, and the productivity stemming from their newfound honesty rippled through James and Laura's collaboration, transforming their project into an embodiment of shared aspirations. James had never felt more engaged or purposeful. Each aspect of the design captured his vision and resonated deeply with Laura's insights. As they transitioned from drafting ideas to constructing the community space, the chemistry between them began to shine. Mia, now more a partner than they had initially anticipated, infused enthusiasm into every meeting. The exchanges shifted. Where previously they were full of trepidation, now bustling with creativity, bridging gaps rather than reinforcing barriers. However, the reality of their transformation faced its first real test when the team was gathered for a crucial meeting. Their recent successes had not gone unnoticed, stirring up both excitement and envy among peers. As they gathered, James observed subtle glares exchanged between Mia and some of their colleagues. It began as an electric hum, rapid questions and praise directed at him, while Laura appeared to notice the same undercurrents of resistance surfacing. As agenda items turned to observations, a colleague, Brad, questioned the dynamics of James and Laura's working relationship. "With Mia's influence, where does that leave our original vision?" he challenged, the insinuation laced with skepticism. In that moment, the old concerns tried to wrap around James like a well-worn cloak, beckoning him to defend what he had fought for valiantly. But as he glanced over at Laura, he felt the strength of their shared commitment bolster his resolve. "We've integrated new perspectives that only enhance our vision," he began, his voice steady. "Mia embodies a potential that resonates with our ideals, merging innovation and community spirit." He could see Laura nodding subtly, a gesture encouraging him to continue. "Sure, but at what cost to established methodologies? This isn't a school project," Brad countered, leaning forward, crossing his arms protectively. James felt Laura touch his arm, grounding him, forcing focus on their shared commitment, rather than the external skepticism. "It's actually an opportunity to evolve," he clarified. "Great designs are never stagnant. They stretch and incorporate fresh ideas, bending without breaking." Mia leaned in, her enthusiasm evident as she added, "Art is transitory, just like our community, changing and thriving when inspired." The tension in the room surfaced, yet instead of retching discomfort, it morphed into something palpable. The air shifted as team members looked at one another, assessing how to approach this new collaboration that challenged their norm. "Two voices are stronger than one," Laura boldly asserted, "and that's exactly what this project represents. Our joint investment in real change shouldn't be met with resistance, it should be celebrated." James reveled in the moment. He had witnessed Laura's vulnerability transform into advocacy. The clarity they had sought broke through the collective criticism enveloping the team. They were redefining their purpose by fostering an environment rich in diversity and adaptability. A slow clap resonated from the back of the room, cautious at first, then building into a ripple of enthusiasm as others reaffirmed their support for the new direction. With renewed resolve from the team, Brad begrudgingly pushed aside doubt. "Okay, let's see where this leads," he conceded. In that moment, James realized that the transformation wasn't solely about reshaping architecture or pursuing ambitions. It was about solidifying a sense of trust forged through vulnerability. Weeks later, as the grand opening approached, a sense of accomplishment hung in the air. The space had been constructed, an edifice of unity emerging from the walls, filled with artworks from Mia, a rich blend of textures and narratives. The unveiling offered the community an opportunity to witness not just the designs, but the very essence of collaborative creativity. Standing beside Laura, with Mia at their side, James felt a profound sense of fulfillment encompassing him. He understood that the project was merely a reflection of the deeper journey they had embarked upon together. As guests entered, laughter and excitement echoed throughout the space. The inaugural event spotlighted everything they aimed for, showcasing how each interaction had strengthened not only their professional foothold, but formulated deeper personal connections. That evening, amidst the celebrations, Laura turned to James with sincere warmth, illuminating her expression. "We did it," she breathed, her voice laced with genuine pride. "It's a true testament to what we can achieve." James returned her gaze, pride swelling within him. "It's a reminder of what's possible when we embrace change and one another." In that moment, they stood together, embraced by recognition from their peers and communities who understood the connection between art, architecture, and their shared journey of transformation. Each brick set, each stroke of paint, echoed the notion of reclamation, not just creativity, but their marriage. As the evening shifted into deeper night, laughter continued to fill the air. James felt solid and restored, knowing they had not only built a community space, but had also carved out an evolution in their own narratives, redefined by challenges, fortified through vulnerability. He had not only achieved professional success, but had conquered the internal battles tying him to the past. In those moments, he understood his worth freed from anyone else's opinions. They had emerged as a reliable team, anchored in each other's strengths, nurturing not just themselves, but many others who could flourish in the space they had created together. And just like that, the man who feared inadequacy was transformed, recognized for his creativity and competence, his heart resolutely set on forging ahead toward a beautiful future, both as an architect of dreams and as a more fulfilled partner. To everyone who loves personal transformation stories, you need to subscribe now so you never miss the next exclusive journeys we'll be exploring. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help us spread these powerful tales. We want to hear from you too. Comment your reactions and theories about this resolution and how you find your own strength. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could benefit from these messages. Your support matters in building a community bound by empowerment and individual growth.